Hello, I'm back again to talk about, you know it, American domestic politics. So I know everybody's going hooray and cheering over the Obamas. They had their event, they're opening up their foundation and all that good stuff. And I ain't gonna lie, it was a breath of fresh air to hear Michelle Obama speak because she's everything Donald Trump isn't. Charismatic, intelligent, attractive, everything that people want to aspire in a leader, has empathy, cares about other people. And this is why I always believe conservatives were highly jealous of Michelle Obama because she emulates everything they're not. And she connects well with people. She's very relatable. She's like an extension of her husband, the former president, but in some ways, even more charismatic, you know. But this is not about just Michelle Obama praising in this video. I just want to bring it up briefly about how I know the Obamas are back in the media and everybody's talking about them. Um, but Obama had an interview with, was it Robin Roberts? Robert Roberts or Robin Williams, a journalist on PBS. Anyways, he finally acknowledged, I know if you guys watched the interview, it seemed a little milly mouthed to me, like, yeah, Obama's a good speaker and everything. But when they confronted him about the reality that American people are unhappy with both parties, he kind of laughed it off. And he talked about his contrast with his deal with Iran versus Trump's, which I agree. Obama's Iranian deal was far better than Trump's. Okay. But Obama in the past also supported things that were adversary to democratic values. And he represents a kind of a neoliberal class of the Democratic Party. Great speaker. He's a great guy and he knows how to read the room. But it doesn't mean he was a perfect leader by any means. And he did acknowledge, though, that our approach to foreign policy in America is flawed. And obviously Donald Trump's doing a terrible job right now. I don't think anybody wants to be in forever wars. Let's just be honest about that. Okay, but here's what Obama acknowledged, which I'm finally glad that more of the old neoliberal class of the Democratic Party is acknowledging, that we're in a new era in American politics. Things are changing. People are looking for different types of leadership. And he acknowledged in the interview, which I thought was a breath of fresh air, he said, as he was quoting Michelle Obama's mom, and they were all quoting each other basically, he said, what I was once told by my elders is, if you want things to change, us older folks have to step aside. Let the younger folks take charge. That is 112% correct. Obama's acknowledging that he has to get out of our way, like the rest of the old school of the Democratic Party. They got to get out of their way. They got to let the young generation take over. And that's correct. At least he can read the room and acknowledge that. That's more than I can say of the leadership of the Democratic Party. And never mind the Republican Party. They're a hot mess. But, they, And then there's a couple other interviews I want to bring up with Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. Again, they're finally saying things that they weren't saying before because they're no longer in the political elite circle. They're now independent civilian citizens. So as regular people, well, they're not regular people, but you know what I mean. They're no longer in that political class. So they're not going to lie for each other anymore. One thing I saw the other day was an interview with Kamala Harris. I think it was on Don Lemon. And she was acknowledging in the interviews that she had with some of these podcasters that she was not fully in touch with the American electorate. She was not fully in touch with regular people because she was in that political bubble. And she said now that she's out going along talking among the people, she's realizing she's got to meet people where they're at. Now, it's no secret she plans on running for president again. We already know this. Whenever a politician says, I'm out touring the country, but I haven't decided, that means they're running for president. We already know. I will give her credit, though. She's playing it a little smarter than Gavin Newsom, who's making it very obvious he's running for president. And that's going to turn a lot of people off. I'm going to be honest. Even though Gavin Newsom's sticking it to Trump, and a lot of Democrats love that, majority of voters aren't going to love that. At the end of the day, because they see he's just politicking. It's not because he genuinely cares. He's not genuine about his passion for making government better for people. And that will be a flaw for Gavin Newsom coming up in 2028. But Kamala Harris is kind of maneuvering her way in. She's playing it very smart. Again, I don't write anybody off, even though she lost to Trump in 2024, and I get it, a lot of people are skeptical. She lost to Trump in 2024. That is correct, she did. But here's the reality. She only had 107 days to run an effective campaign. She was handed the infrastructure of Joe Biden's political arm. She had to owe her allegiance to Joe Biden. Joe Biden became a liability, along with the old guard of the Democratic Party. She had to run with that platform, and that's what she chose to run on. And obviously cost her the election greatly. But here's the thing. She was acknowledging in the interview that the Democratic Party, she's finally acknowledging the quiet part now. The part that people wouldn't speak so many times within the party. But she's no longer in that circle. She's basically saying the Democratic Party's got to look beyond just building for the status quo. They actually got to learn to play politics better, fight fire with fire, bring new ideas to the table, expand the courts, talk about making Puerto Rico and D.C. statehood, and that the status quo is not enough. And she's going around the country listening to people and acknowledging what people's pain is. And she's saying that the Democratic Party's got to take a different course. The status quo is not enough. And that's what gave us Donald Trump twice. Kamala Harris acknowledged that. Ding, 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 ding. Some of these people are finally figuring it out. Now, I don't know how genuine they are. I'm not giving them too much credit yet. It may be just they're playing the right kind of politics right now because they know they have to meet the moment because they want to run for president in 2028. So we'll stay tuned on that. Okay, because they might be just trying to get votes. Because if they get into power and do the status quo, well, we know they lied just to win. You know, because that's what a lot of politicians do. What's new, right? But it's just good to see that they're at least putting it out there. You know, but those are two highlights I noticed that were very interesting. But I think these people are finally reading the room a little bit. And I agree, all these old folks, all these people in the elite class, they need to just go live on Martha Vineyard, do whatever they want to do, Mar-a-Lago, God knows wherever, and just get out of the way and live their life, and let the young people fix everything. That's all I got to say in this video. Anyways, y'all, have a great, wonderful day, great night. Goodbye.